Hello, everyone. So excited to have all of you join us for our first Up-Level Live session. I already put in the chat section, just curious to know where everyone is from. I see people from Utah, Toronto, Minneapolis, even Spain, which is amazing. And so just before we get into our first session, just want to go over a couple of housekeeping things. For those of you that have never been on Crowdcast before, welcome. Crowdcast has been around for a few years, and I really enjoy their platform just in terms of their broadcast style and capabilities, asking a question, polls, engaging with the audience. And so in terms of housekeeping, the chat section should be on the right of your screen. So feel free to engage with myself, engage with Scott, engage with everyone else that is on this broadcast with us. Below the screen, you'll see Ask a Question. So I really highly encourage you to get your questions in there even right away. That way we can all upvote them so that the ones that have the most votes kind of go first and second and third. So definitely start putting your questions in there. We already have one question in there, so looking forward to seeing a few more questions there. And again, just a little bit about myself and a little bit about UpLevel. So UpLevel is a new micro-learning online experience. I felt that there is an opportunity to connect with really awesome people such as Scott that have made a name for themselves and their business in terms of being thought leaders and experts in really specific fields. And I feel that there are an amazing group of people out there that we can highlight and acknowledge and really just start to create what this whole UpLevel experience is. So every Wednesday, there's going to be an UpLevel live session. We're trying to keep it in the range between either 10 a.m. Pacific time or 12 p.m. Pacific time. But of course, depending upon the person's schedule, we might have to juggle a few different timelines around. Just definitely take some time to subscribe to our newsletter so that you can make sure that you're up to date with everything, as well as follow us on social media. You should find us under Move Up Level on most of the platforms. And a little bit about me. So I'm originally from Toronto, which is also where Scott is from. And we have a couple other people in the audience from Toronto. So shout out to my Torontonians. I have lived in 2 continents, 3 countries, and 7 cities over the course of my lifetime. And so I've definitely had a myriad of experiences in my life, both personally and professionally. Most recently, I was in the co-working space. So I had managed 2 co-working spaces here in the Salt Lake City area, which is where I currently live. And I also started an initiative called W Collective, focused on women. But UpLevel is my new journey, hence our new world, and of course, this interesting 2020 that we're all experiencing right now. So I'm excited to be here with all of you and to grow and build on this UpLevel vision, and I hope that you'll join me. So right now, I'm going to just give you an introduction into Scott. So Scott D. Clary, he is a career sales and marketing executive, currently Senior VP of Marketing Sales at ExciteM. Scott rewrites the playbook on sales, marketing, brand, and take-to-market strategy. From startups to enterprise, Scott's worked with Fortune 500 execs and unicorn tech CEOs to 10x their businesses. He is also the host of Success Story podcast, where he interviews inspirational people, mentors, and leaders. If you've been following his podcast so far, he has interviewed people such as Grant Cardone and Guy Kawasaki, which is pretty amazing. Those are two incredible people in the world of business and entrepreneurship. Scott speaks globally at industry conferences and has had articles and insights featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Hackernoon, The Startup, among others. So without further ado, Scott, please join me.
Oh, thank you very much for the intro. Let me join you. Let me make sure everything's up and running and working. You can all see me okay, Robin? We're all live? Good. Very, very good.
Okay. Yes. So, Scott, if I missed anything in your introduction, please feel free to add it. But also, if you could maybe just give a little bit of insight in terms of, what you're going to be talking about today. And then as soon as you're ready, I'm going to give the floor to you.
Certainly. Well, thank you very much. It was a really, really nice introduction. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone for, giving an hour to speak, for me to speak rather to you about brand, about LinkedIn, about things that I'm passionate about in terms of marketing, building out your professional persona, all these different things that I've tried to do for myself. And I've learned across my entire career, my sales career, marketing career, why brand is so important, both for companies and for individuals. So today, I'm going to speak about how to build a brand as an individual, why it's important, and also why I am so heavily involved, why I love LinkedIn as a platform for brand, but also just as a social media platform that isn't used enough by the majority of people. We all are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but I think that LinkedIn and TikTok is, another up and coming, but I think LinkedIn is one platform that we could all use a little bit more, and I'll go into reasons why. So I appreciate the intro. I guess I'll kick it off if you want me to get started.
I'll give the floor to you.
All right, cool. So, just to go over the agenda again, a little bit of background about who I am. I'll give you a little bit more context, but Robin did a really, really good job summarizing. We'll speak about brand, what is brand, why you should focus on building it, and then which platform should you focus on building your brand on. And then we're going to dovetail into LinkedIn, why LinkedIn is a platform to be on, how to focus and build a brand on LinkedIn, and then some of the more tactical, tangible elements of LinkedIn, how to build a proper profile, how to post correctly, all these things that will hopefully lead to success in the effort of building a brand on the platform. And then we'll have a conclusion and then open questions for whatever you want to, ask questions about. So leave questions in the comments as I'm going through this. I'll go through as many questions as I can, hopefully at the end. But anything in terms of sales, in terms of marketing, in terms of LinkedIn, in terms of brand, I'll go through all those at the end. So to speak about who I am, Robin did a really good job, but to go take a step further, lifelong sales and marketing executive. My background was always starting off in sales, individual contributor, moved all the way through different markets into enterprise, then moved into management, so leading sales teams. When I moved to a smaller company, actually my background's in telecommunications, so moved to a smaller telco. Originally was working at Bell Canada, which is one of the largest telcos, in North America. Consider it like a Verizon or AT&T. And moved to a smaller telco, managed a small sales and marketing team there. Went into individual consulting. After that, was basically fractional CXO, so outsourced sales and marketing leadership for both some legacy companies, so smaller companies in like the $10 to $15 million revenue range, and then also I had a lot of fun consulting early stage startups. So I worked for myself, basically helping companies that had really creative ideas, really innovative ideas, build out a narrative around their products and help them position their products and sort of take those products to market. So that's my background, and now what I do. It's sort of the love of both things. So it's my sales and marketing, both the tactical plus the leadership and the ability to train and teach others how to do those things properly. But I do that in Grass Valley for a small software division of the company. So I'm responsible for taking new software to market through Grass Valley in an incubator almost called ExciteM. So I'm exclusively responsible for any new SaaS products that come out, which is a big deal because Grass Valley has traditionally been a very a hardware focused company. So it's almost like a startup within a large company, which gives me a ton of opportunity to sort of test and try and execute just because of the reach and the scope. So that's what I do now in terms of my 9 to 5. If Robin just mentioned, I host a podcast. I do a lot of things, but the podcast is something I'm very, very passionate about. It started off as very, very focused on executives, speaking to people who were, senior entrepreneurs, CEOs, VP marketing, VP sales. But then I widened the scope a little bit. And the podcast is called Success Story Podcast, but I widened the scope to speak to people who were just incredibly talented at whatever they did, because I didn't want to just bring out stories from people that were only in the business world. I wanted to hear stories from other people that were just incredible at their craft and sort of like build out their playbooks for people to learn from, and the insights from some of the smartest, brightest individuals in the world. So that's, she mentioned Guy Kawasaki, Anthony Scaramucci, Grant Cardone, Jack Canfield, and a ton of other incredibly successful, smart, and bright people in business or outside of traditional context of business. So that's really my professional background. Outside of that, I try and write. I try and build my own brand, which you'll see is something that I'm going to sort of teach you how to build out that brand and the reasons why it's important to do that. That's why you'll see a lot of things on my LinkedIn, for example, about writing for the Wall Street Journal, writing for Forbes. I sit and I judge various sales and marketing competitions. So the Stevies is a sales awards competition. I was a judge for that, and I put myself out there to do that. I'm a judge for the upcoming Canadian Marketing Awards. So all these different things that I do, they're in line with what I know and what I love to do, but they're also important for building out my brand and my persona. And you just do as many things as you can, respective of your time and whatnot. But I do work a lot right now, but it's purposeful. It's meant to be something that I can sort of take with me going forward. So let's just speak about brand. So what is brand? Brand is the persona of traditionally your company, right? Your company, if you're going to talk about the gamut of marketing activities, you're going to have your very tactical things. You're going to have your campaigns. You're going to have content marketing, but you're also going to be focusing on your brand. So what is the thing that drives everything else that you do? What is the ideology, the high level vision that drives what content marketing you put out, what posts you put on social media, how you engage with your customers, how you speak to your customers, how you engage with your employees? All these things are driven, and they should be driven by your brand. And that should be the thing that drives everything in your organization, even like how you sell your product and whatnot. So this is what brand traditionally is. Now, if we speak about personal brand, it's the same thing. It's that high level vision that drives everything you do. It could be in a professional sense. It could be in a personal sense, but it means that you have something that you stand for, that you build up. And when I speak about a lot of the stuff we're going to be speaking about today is your professional brand. It's very good to have, your guidelines for your ethics and morals and values in your personal life. But those are a little bit harder for me to teach over. I think that for now, we'll speak about personal brand and professional brand, and how to build up a professional brand for yourself, which can enable you to either, you can go into different side activities outside of your 9 to 5. You can speak at events. You can build out a brand that will enable you to, for example, have more sales opportunities. If your clients know who you are, you can build out a brand that will allow you to have more job opportunities. If you're out and present and on, for example, LinkedIn, and you're posting content, you're going to have a reach. People are going to be looking at you. So there's a lot of reasons why building out your own brand purposefully makes sense. So just to go over, there's 2 quotes here. One from Chris Drucker: your personal brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. So the one thing that I always try and reinforce when I'm speaking about building out your brand, especially a professional brand, is that you already have one. Regardless of whether or not you like it, you have a brand. And if you don't try and build that narrative yourself, if you don't, for example, build out your professional persona on LinkedIn, if you don't post content, if you're not on social media, your brand will be defined by whatever people find on you. And for some, for some people, for example, it's not great. We don't like it. It's like an icky feeling. But if you have a really, really perhaps inappropriate Instagram page and somebody is looking at you for a job and they come across your Instagram page, well, you can argue whether or not they should be doing that in the first place. But the point is, now your brand, your persona, their perception of you has been altered. For the better, for the worse, it's going to happen. So the very least, the very minimum you can do is you can take control of people's perception of you. And this is not to be misconstrued. This is not to alter someone's perception of you. It's to make sure that they get the authentic you. They get who you are, and there's no confusion about what you stand for, what experiences you have, what insights you have, all these things that you want people to understand. You need to make sure that there's a medium or a way for them to see it without actually speaking to you. Because the second, people find their information all over the internet right now. It's the same thing for business. When businesses put out content, when people are investigating a new product to buy, you're doing your research. There's a lot, you look at the stats, it's like, depending on the study, it's between like 50 to 75% of the research done on a product is done before you even speak to a sales rep for a company. Think about the last thing you bought. A lot of the research was done online. You go on to, you speak to your friends and family, you look at the social media, you read the website. All that stuff is done before you speak to a sales rep, right? So you want to, same type of concept, you want to make sure that when somebody's looking into you, that you have the image that you want to portray to that person. Another really good quote by Tim Ferriss: personal branding is about managing your name, even if you don't own a business. In a world of misinformation, disinformation, and semi-permanent Google records, going on a date, getting a job, whatever it may be, chances are your blind date is Googled your name. Going to a job interview, ditto. So, we kind of covered why brand is important, but why is your personal brand important as a professional, as somebody who wants to grow their career? You want to, nobody I know is ever just happy with where they're at right now. They either want to learn something new, they want a new opportunity, they want perhaps a new job, they want a promotion, whatever it may be. There's ways that you can make it a little bit easier to get there. And also, when you build out a brand, for example, something on LinkedIn, opportunities come that you weren't even thinking of. You don't know what you don't know. And when you start to build out a brand for yourself, people start approaching you because you start building that audience. Now, some of the reasons, I mentioned some of these before, but when you build out a professional brand on LinkedIn, for example, new clients, if LinkedIn is one of the best places to prospect for clients for your business. If you know what your ideal, your target customer profile is, your buyer persona, and you have a network, you can now go out into that network and you can find the right people. You're a degree, if not directly connected to that person. You can message them. There's a whole bunch of sales opportunities related to building out a brand. There's job opportunities, of course. If you have your persona out there, if you're putting out content that's in line with the job that you want to get, there's a really good chance that recruiters are going to see that. They're going to understand that you're an expert in your field, and they're going to reach out with opportunities. Just networking, knowing people, we're all sort of stuck at home right now. And networking is something that I would recommend you do all the time anyways. But right now we can't be going to trade shows. We can't be flying all over the world. For a lot of us, we're, I don't know, there's people all over the world here, and we're in various stages of lockdown, and building a brand online is going to be one of the only audiences that some of us have for, unfortunately, a little bit of time, right? So you want to be able to network. You're not going to be going to a trade show with like 2,000-3,000 people for a fair amount. So let's build it online, build up that network. Side hustles. You can think of my podcast with some incredible people, but that started it was something that I wanted to do. It wasn't my, it's not replacing all my income right now. So if you want to have a side hustle, you want to build out a persona, you want people to trust you. It's a lot easier to do when you have a personal brand, when you build up that brand on LinkedIn. And I keep flip-flopping between personal and professional brand. I apologize for the verbiage. When I say a personal brand, I really do mean like you're building it your professional persona. I go back and forth. So just to clarify that, but a side hustle, you don't want to spend a ton of money on marketing to get your side hustle out there. I don't want to spend $1,000 a month on marketing for a podcast that's not making me any money. But because I built out a brand, now I have millions of free organic impressions that I can market my podcast for free. And that's just one side hustle. Speaking engagements speaks for itself. This opportunity, this thing I'm doing right now came out of my LinkedIn and many others, both paid and unpaid, sponsorship opportunities. And you just have a platform now. You have the opportunity to build a tribe, build that community of people that you can do anything with. And if there's three faces here. I'm sure most of us know all three of them. So we have Elon Musk, we have Richard Branson, we have Gary Vaynerchuk. All have very, very prolific personal brands. And we have to think, Elon Musk's personal brand is so strong that he actually gets himself into trouble sometimes with the things that he says, but he has built out a personal brand because he realizes the importance of being that celebrity CEO. There's a lot of companies with faceless CEOs, but anything Elon does now, same with actually, anything any of these people do, because their name is so strong, their brand is so strong, they can launch a new product, they can do a new thing, and all of a sudden they get free exposure. So Elon Musk, he's doing a ton of different things, but his professional brand is probably like his name is probably what we know best about him. There's a lot of other companies where you don't know their CEO the way you know Elon Musk. Richard Branson, same thing. Now he's a little bit different. He's just been around doing incredible stuff for a very long time. And I think Elon and Richard probably didn't do it as purposefully as, for example, the third guy, Gary Vee, who is almost exclusively focused on building his personal brand. And we see the success because now he can launch new businesses. He just launched Vayner Baseball. He launched Vayner Media, Wine Library, all these different things that he launches. They're immediate successes because he launches them. He has the audience. So by launching something new, by doing something new, when you have a brand, you already have that audience that you can market to. So what is my brand? Just to go very quickly, my brand is very much focused on leadership, sales, marketing, business. That's what I do. That's what I know. Even the podcast, even though I speak to people outside of sales and marketing, I try and sort of bring out some professional development or leadership lessons, regardless of what industry they're in. I put all my social as the same handle, which is it's just something that that's actually the reason why it's S. Douglas Clary, because that's the same handle that I could get across all the social benefits. Basically everything I just mentioned. I'm 1 degree of separation away from almost any decision maker in any industry in North America, which is crazy. If I want to tap in and talk to somebody, job opportunities, I get solicited all the time. Recruiters are going into my inbox all the time. Networking, side hustles. I built the podcast. We're at about 5,000 to 10,000 downloads per episode. And the reach across the entire brand is about 200,000 now, individuals across all the social, but we're about 5,000 to 10,000 downloads per episode, which is crazy considering I spent $0 on marketing and I just launched it against my LinkedIn audience. And then sponsorship opportunities. I had the opportunity to work with Microsoft earlier this year, which is a great opportunity to run a campaign with them. And then again, the platform, the ability to do things, whatever comes up, I have that opportunity. Now, make sure that when you're building out your brand, 2 things to take away. One, you want to make sure that you build out that brand on the platform that makes sense. So for me, sales and marketing, LinkedIn is like the default, the de facto. It makes a ton of sense. But not everyone is like that. If you have a very visual brand, maybe you want to be on Instagram. If you have I don't know, maybe for example, a very niche marketing firm that grows people's Twitter accounts, you'd really want to go heavy on Twitter, for example. If you can create this great TikTok content and that has something to do with your business and you see the opportunity there, go on TikTok. but the content on every platform that you put out when you build your brand on all these platforms, it does look a little bit different. So you have to be conscious of the audience that you're serving on the platform that you're communicating on. So what do I have now? I have a niche or a niche, depending on how you like to pronounce it. I've built a brand, and then I have access in my target demographic, in my tribe. That's what I've done for myself. That's what I'm encouraging everybody who's watching to do. So why LinkedIn? Why do I care about LinkedIn? Besides the fact that the content that I put out is very much tailored to LinkedIn, it's a huge opportunity. And the reason why is because LinkedIn is an undersaturated platform. So all social media platforms, save TikTok and LinkedIn, are oversaturated, which means that there are more people producing content than people consuming. So your organic reach, the amount of people that actually see your content, is diminished. When you go to LinkedIn, there's less people creating content than consuming, which means that your organic reach, your ability to reach people, is much greater. That's why LinkedIn, in my opinion, is a great opportunity. I'm a big fan and student of Gary Vee, regardless of his personality. He's a brilliant marketer, and he has a very good point that LinkedIn now is where Facebook was in 2010, I think he said. The opportunity is huge. Same with TikTok. The exact same phenomenon is happening with TikTok, where you have less people creating content than consuming it. Now we can talk about, will TikTok be banned or whatnot, or is it a good idea to put out content and put out effort into TikTok? I still think it is. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a great way to learn how to use that type of, there was always Vine, now there's TikTok, there will be something else. But still, I think for a professional, for the access to decision makers, for the access to people that have budget, have money, whatever industry you're in, I really think LinkedIn is underserved. So you have 610 million members, only 303 million active monthly users, but their target is going to be, I think, 3 billion in the next few years. 90 million senior level influencers and 63 million decision makers use LinkedIn. 92% of Fortune 500, 46% of social media traffic to B2B sites is from LinkedIn. 97% of B2B marketers use LinkedIn as a content distribution channel, and only 3 million of the 303 million active, or the 610 million total, only 3 million share content every week. That's incredible. And understand that opportunity as a business owner, as a sales rep, as a marketer, as an exec. It doesn't really matter. Anybody who's watching this is either working for a company that could use it better or could use it better themselves. And I just mentioned this, pick whatever social platform works for you and learn how to do that platform very well. It may not be LinkedIn, but whatever it is, even if it's not LinkedIn, even if it's one of the more saturated platforms, learn how to do it incredibly well. So the LinkedIn funnel, how do you actually do LinkedIn? So you have I'm going to go through some screenshots and whatnot in a second, so it'll make a little bit more sense. But you have your profile, you have your summary, then you have your call to action. So you have your headline, you have your profile headline, then you have your summary of who you are, what you've done, and then you have your call to action. And what you're doing is you're actually building a funnel on your LinkedIn profile in hopes that you will achieve a desired result from whoever sees that LinkedIn profile. So when we build out a brand, that's great. You speak about and everything you do is driven by this brand, but also you want to have a result of that brand. So you want to have that call to action, that thing that people do once they consume all your content. It doesn't have to be buying something. A call to action can be following. A call to action can be subscribing to an email list. A call to action can be sending you an email. It can be whatever you want it to be, but just have something purposeful. Have something that you want to achieve, because that will allow you to set milestones, set goals, set KPIs, so that you can measure your performance. Make sure that if you're going to do something, you're going to invest time in this, have some sort of metric that gauges your performance. And yes, you can just count on the followers or the engagement. You can, look at the traditional metrics that you're going to be measured across any type of LinkedIn or any type of social media platform, but you can also measure your own brand and your own effectiveness by having a very specific call to action, which, if I'm going to show you a slide in a second, that specific call to action can be beneficial outside of the scope of just getting more followers. So it's a little bit more purposeful than just a vanity metric. That's what you would call a metric that is a follower or a like or something along those lines. That would be a vanity metric. It doesn't really do much for you, except maybe make yourself feel a little bit better, make you feel good because you have some followers, but have something purposeful that you want to achieve from building out a brand. Now, there's 3 examples here. It could be connect with you, it could be follow you, but it could be open your email, which is a little bit more tangible, and it's obviously going to serve you a little bit better. And even if it's only to subscribe to a mail list or whatnot, that's a whole other marketing discussion as to why you should be building your own tribe off of social media as well, not just on. Collect people's information, obviously, get them to opt in, but you want to collect people's information. You want to build that rapport with people so that whatever you do in the future, very similar to Gary V, whatever you do in the future, you now have that audience that you can go into. Okay, so how to do LinkedIn. Starting from the top, your profile picture. So your profile picture is the first thing that people see. So you want to have a profile picture that really speaks about what you do, not something as ridiculous as this. You're not going to do business. You're not going to trust. You're not going to, it's a bad first impression. You want something that's clear, something that shows exactly who you are, something that could stand out and draw people's attention. It can either be something very similar to what Anthony is doing here, which is obviously a beautiful profile picture. The whole profile is beautiful, but it also draws your attention. When you're looking at the list of all the people, you look at this list here, his profile picture stands out. But it doesn't have to be something so fancy. It can also just be something simple, clear face, cropped, just below the neck, white background, not distracting. Whatever it is, make sure that it also displays what the persona that you want to deliver, usually in line with the job you do, right? Like if you're going to be an investment banker, you'll probably do yourself up a little bit more than if you were a creative director or a videographer. Maybe not, but usually you want to have a persona that ties into what you do for a living. Going down the profile, you have a cover, or going down in this, going on to the next slide, you have a cover photo. So the cover photo should complement what you do. So you have your little headline that says, for Michaela, it's millennial LinkedIn trainer and keynote speaker. Her cover photo shows exactly what she does, right? So it shows pictures of her actually speaking. It's reinforcing what she says she does for a living. If we look at, Shay, she actually has all of her contacts, and then she has a call to action in her profile, because that cover photo is the first thing you see after you look at the actual individual profile picture. So it's right at the top of the screen. You want to put whatever you think is relevant for your job, your brand, your persona. Now for Shay, she wants somebody to give her a call, to work with her. She's very heavily focused on gaining clients from LinkedIn. Michaela took a different approach, but you understand that there still is a desired result with both of these. Michaela is probably somebody who wants to be a speaker. She wants to get some more speaking gigs. She could say, DM me, private message me, send me an email in her cover photo. But for her, it's more important to reinforce what she's doing with visual proof. With Shay, she's not a speaker. She makes videos. She does LinkedIn marketing. So she wants that. She wants people sliding into her inbox, asking how she can help them, and then she wants to land clients that way. Now, last one, Vaibhav looks at, there's a small picture of him speaking in front of an audience, but the takeaway for his is to include some social proof, some of the accolades, some of the things that he's done. So he actually lists out, he's a marketing manager at Uber, he's a growth consultant, he's a speaker, he does online courses, but then it's very impressive when you see all the different places where his work has been featured. So he has Entrepreneur, Banff, sorry, a little small on my screen, but you have a couple of Something Chronicle. You have a couple different news outlets that have featured his work. So he's providing social proof that, well, listen, if entrepreneur features my work, then there's some social proof that what I've done and the work that I've done is good. It's incredible work, and that's why it's been featured in all these outlets. So different ideas on how to do the cover photo, but it should be, again, either reinforcing who you are as a professional, the image you want to portray, or have, again, a reinforcement of a call to action. And as we keep going down, by the way, you'll see here it says section number 1. It says section number 1. What I mean by that is, if we go back a few slides, this is the awareness piece of your profile, right? So this is what is capturing people's attention and then getting them to look at the rest of your profile. So awareness is the section number 1, just to help people understand that. So now we go to the headline. So headline, you have actually, it used to be 120 characters. I think it's gone up a little bit since then. But the headline it's exactly what it is. It's a very simple description of what you do. You don't want to put more in it. And I've made this mistake myself, put more in it than is absolutely required, because you want it to be explicit. You want to describe exactly what you do, so people aren't confused when they go to your profile about what your job is. And I see some people that put a ton of stuff in their headline, and too much. You want to be promotional, but you don't want to put too much so that people actually get confused, or it looks a little bit superfluous, if that's the correct word. But for example, so Ricardo, he's head of growth at Upthrust, but he literally says what Upthrust does, because if you don't know Upthrust, it's not a brand name we know. If you don't know Upthrust, you're probably not going to know exactly what it does. So he says, we train and execute digital projects together with your team, not separately. So it's a digital marketing firm. Dave, he doesn't speak about what Drift does in particular, but he speaks about what his specialties are. So he's a VP marketing at Drift. He's a brand builder and a category creator. Very simple, succinct, to the point. So there's no misconception about what he's doing. Now, going down, 1 second. Now we're in section 2, which is the summary. So the summary is essentially a resume of what you've done over your career. And you want to write it in the first. I see people write it in the third person. This is more a matter of preference. I like writing it in the first person just because I think it feels authentic. But you can write it in whatever way you'd like, first or third. But make sure that the start of your summary captures somebody's attention. So, for example, at the top of Dave's summary, it's saying that he is regarded as one of today's leading brand builders, and he is currently rewriting the play for B2B marketing at Drift, where he is the VP of marketing. So that captures exactly what he does in 2 lines, and then there's a prompt to see more. And when you click that see more prompt, then you get all the other incredible things that he's done. So he made a really, really short description of himself to basically entice you to see more, to read more about him. And as you go through his profile, then he speaks about all of his marketing activities, what he's doing at Drift. He's written a book. He's a co-creator of Hypergrowth. He's a guest lecturer at Harvard Business School. So he's a really, really interesting person. But you wouldn't know any of this about Dave if he didn't tell it to you, if he didn't write it down. So don't. And he also used some best practices just for writing on social, using some emojis, spacing out the text. These are all strategies we'll talk about for your post later. But this is a very nice way to present everything you've done over your career. And if you're looking at this, if you're reading it, you're impressed by Dave, right? So, and then we have the last part of that 3-part funnel, which is the call to action. So this, again, is reinforcing that call to action. This is what I was speaking about before. It's not a vanity metric. He wants people to actually email him about speaking opportunities, interviews, or other, but he's very focused on building out his own professional brand, as you can see. So he says email DG@Drift, So he wants people to actually reach out to him. That's his call to action. So after you go through the profile picture, the cover, you have that 2-line summary of it, 2-line concise intro to your summary. People read your whole summary. They're very impressed. And now there's a call to action at the very end of the summary so that people will reach out to Dave and book him for events or interviews or whatnot. Now, so that is really the LinkedIn funnel. That is how to build out a good LinkedIn profile. Other things, LinkedIn SEO. So LinkedIn SEO, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're using words on your profile, these will dictate who finds your profile. So don't write confusing job titles if you want people to find you. If you want people to find you for speaking engagements, in your summary, write that you are looking for speaking engagements, or that you've had speaking opportunities, or you've gone through, or you've presented at all these different conferences. If you are a digital marketer, put that in your profile. Don't use ambiguity because people will not find you. So it's just showing here, for example, when you search the word growth hacker, it's showing the search results that are tied to growth hacker. So it looks in the title, and then it looks in the summary for the word that you're actually searching. So keep that in mind to make sure that you put those words in your profile. Now, moving on. So key takeaways. You have to have a professional profile. You want to have picture, cover, header to be in line with whatever persona you want to build. You want to pay attention to the headline. You want to make your summary powerful to speak about your experience. Add all the details of your work experience, anything outside of work, basically anything that would build you up as an individual in whatever desired result you want to achieve. So make sure that you add as many details as possible. And then you want to focus on keywords too. So that's also, those are the main takeaways for a LinkedIn profile. There's other sections to the profile. I'm already going a little bit long, and I want Q&A, and so we'll skip past those. But there's referrals and whatnot. There's spots where you can add your courses and credentials and certificates. Those are all good things to add on as well. But make sure that you start with the basics. Okay, so other LinkedIn things. Posting. This is probably one of the things that people get wrong the most. So LinkedIn is it's the posting style on LinkedIn. A lot of people, because it's a professional environment, they default to professional, I guess. I don't know if it's professional, but like what a standard blog post would look like, with huge chunks of text, these text walls, which is incredible information, but it's not friendly to read. You have to understand that people look at LinkedIn on mobile. They're not on LinkedIn to read a blog post. If they are, they'll go a step further. They'll go to your website. They'll go to an article, or they'll maybe click through to a separate website. But if you want to post on LinkedIn, you have to make the post consumable and friendly to people who are browsing on mobile, which means that you have to space out the text. So instead of putting chunks of text like you're seeing in the bottom right, that's what you don't do. You, like what Ilya did here, he put spaces in between each line, which makes it very easy to consume. And you have to understand that if you're trying to build out an audience, you want your content to be as friendly to consume, as attractive as possible. He also used some emojis to reinforce his point, which adds a little bit of a playful vibe to the post. Even though he's delivering a ton of great content, he's still making it friendly and just enjoyable to read. So space out and make sure that it's easy to read. You don't have to, I've seen some people break sentences in half to space them out. I don't do that, but I do believe that if you have a sentence or two sentences, that should be the limit until you space it out, so you're not doing these huge chunks of text. And you have to realize too that not everybody on LinkedIn has the command over the language that you're posting to the same extent as you do. There's huge audiences in other parts of the world that may have trouble or may not want to read a huge text wall of English if it's not their native language. And breaking it up like this makes it a little bit simpler. There's also the headline for your post. So you want the headline for your post to be very much like the title of an article. If you're going to get people to read the article, you have to create something that's going to draw them in, going to capture their attention. So the headline for the post is very similar to that. You want to get people to stop scrolling, because as they're scrolling through LinkedIn, they're seeing tons of content. If they read a headline on your post, because remember, when you post on LinkedIn, if you see Addie's example here, all you see are the first few lines. You don't see the full post. So those first few lines, especially the headline, they have to be interesting enough to get people to click that see more button. If they click that see more button, now they're more likely to read through the whole article. They're already emotionally involved in reading this piece, and then the chance of them engaging on the piece of content or liking it or commenting are a lot higher. So you want to make sure that that captures the individual's attention as they're scrolling through all the posts on their LinkedIn feed. This is a great list. So Banff is a media agency, a marketing agency, and they just listed out the top 50 starting lines that they've used for some of their posts. So, you'll all have access to this deck later. I'm not going to go through them all, but you see the theme. It's a very emotionally triggering type of line that starts off their post before they go into whatever story. And by the way, this is not permission to be clickbaity and to put a line that has nothing to do with the story, but just be smart about the headline and think through it a little bit so that it captures attention. Tagging. You can tag people, but tag them respectfully. So for example, here's an example of Ilya tagging 4 individuals that he mentioned in his article, which is fine. I don't think it's a good idea. I see it a lot where people tag like 20 people that have no relation to the post in hopes of getting them to engage. Some people don't mind it. It ticks a lot of people off. I wouldn't do it. If you write an article about people, if you feature people, if you saw somebody do an incredible post and you want to, compliment their post and write about the post that they put out, tag them, but be respectful of not spamming people or blowing up their notifications. Another great posting idea is a giveaway. So giving away access to content. If you want to give away things, you can, for example, what Kolian did here, he gave away a ton of free tools for startups. He had how much engagement? Like over 100,000 views on his LinkedIn post. And actually the second picture is from the same giveaway he put on Facebook that had over 1.3 thousand comments. So he actually gave something away, which drove engagement. And then you don't have to be professional all the time. Here's a great picture. Dave always gets a ton of great engagement. He's a really good LinkedIn, I'd say somebody to follow and engage with on LinkedIn. He does it very well. He's a really great marketer like that. And he puts out personal content. He puts out business content. He puts out marketing content. But it's okay to build out the human side of you. You don't have to be a robot on these platforms. Get people to know the real you. It builds that camaraderie and it builds that trust in your audience. And then you also want to tell a story. That's another way to speak about events that occurred in your life, in your professional circumstance. You can always walk through problems that you had, the solution that you came up with to those problems. There's going to be someone in that audience that's going to want to learn from you. And by doing that, by telling a story, by walking the audience through a problem that you're solving, you're providing value, you're providing content, and you're becoming that thought leader. Now, I just have a couple notes on this post. Let me pull them up. But this is Ilya telling a story. 1 second, I just have a... So how he actually broke it down. He does an introduction into what's going on in the story. Then you can see he's spaced out the lines, like I mentioned before, so that it's very easy to read. He used some emojis to sort of lighten the mood a little bit, but they're also in line with the content that he actually wrote. And then lastly, he actually had a little piece that is sort of closing off the post, so that it's sort of a nice, it's a wrapped up story. I think it's a weird way to say it, but he walked through his last day at Doxify. So yeah, again, intro that catches, someone's attention. I'm going, this is my last day at Doxify. Then they'd press the see more button. You have the proper space between the lines, so it's easy to read. You have emojis that allow a little bit of fun in the post, and then you have the story close. And then providing value. Again, we mentioned this a few times, but just providing ideas, insights, basically expertise in whatever your field is. Make sure that it's in line with the brand you want to build, of course, but if you're providing value, that's another great post idea. So there's a whole list of posting ideas here. I'm not going to go through all of them again. We just went through a few of them, but the whole point is to whatever you're posting, there's a certain way to format it. And then once you have that formula down, then you can target the actual content, that, you know, the meat and potatoes into whatever demographic, whatever audience is going to be in line with the brand that you're building. So to summarize, building a brand, don't try and sell, provide value instead. Don't post too much, especially on LinkedIn. Twice per week is more than enough. You can post. I post every day, but if you don't have a cadence, if you're not there yet, just start posting something. So once, twice a week is better than nothing. Don't talk about your company. Just provide value. Show expertise. Include your personal life, personal things that you discovered or problems that you solve for in your job. Don't just be promotional about your company's product. And then also videos are great. If you know, this is sort of graduating to the next step, but if you can create video content, that's another level of that's a content piece that you can put out there, but it's just, it takes the social media game to the next level, because now people actually know who you are, what you sound like. There's a lot more that you can build out from a video piece, and you can feel from a video piece than you can with text. So that would be another great takeaway. It's just a list of sources, and then all of my contact. If you have any questions, I know this was a little bit quick because there was so much here, but email me, call me, website, any of my social, and then there's more questions outside of today. I'll be happy to answer. All right, Robin, I'm good. We can go into AMA. I'm sorry I took so long.
No, there's just so much there to go over, and that's why we're going to have your presentation on your profile and up level, so that way people can reference it at any time, which I think will be really, really helpful, because I think that LinkedIn is a little bit more complex, of a platform compared to the others. And I think that really knowing all those different characteristics about it and what you touched upon is going to be really, really important to everyone. So I wanted to go through Q&A. We have a few questions from people.
Sure.
So the first one is from, and I hope that I pronounced this person's name correctly, Borja. The first question is, how can you explain the importance of building a persona brand to a wide audience, so that you're not necessarily selling something, but think about like students or even professionals that have been in their job for a long time?
So I think the importance is understanding that even if you're in your job for a long time, you don't know what you don't know. So I mentioned this before, opportunities will come that you haven't ever even explored, you've never thought of. So regardless of whether or not you use it in your own position, or it just opens up the door for other opportunities. For example, there's a lot of executives, and not only executives, just individuals that built out a brand or a persona, and it's allowed them to go speak at different conferences and build that credibility, build that social capital. Now, once you have that social capital, once you go out and speak, yes, you could have been working, you could be a student who hasn't gone into the workforce yet, or you could have been working at a company for 30 years, but there will always be an extra opportunity. For example, say you really do build a huge brand, and now you're an expert, you've been a dog walker, you run a dog walking business, but now you could have like a sponsorship endorsement from a company that saw you online, and now they're literally paying you to promote their brand. But that's because you have an audience first. So even if you've been doing the same job for years, to not build out a brand I think the access to, how best to put this, even if you've been in a job for years, if you don't build out your brand, if you're not taking advantage of the free reach of social media, I think you could be missing opportunities you're not even aware of. And then even if you have been in the job, you've been in the job for years, you don't care about sponsorship, you don't care about switching jobs, you never want to leave where you're at. Well, what about sales? What about opportunities? What about connecting with, business development for your own company? That could be an opportunity for you to shine. So if you're in any sort of marketing or sales position and you have no interest in speaking, if you do start posting thought leader content, not only will it just help your company because you're associated with that company, you will now have the opportunity to reach out to decision makers that your company may have not had before, that they may have not had that opportunity. So I think that the reasoning, and I'm struggling to come up with like a single one reason because it's very specific based on what your circumstances are. For a student, I think that the job opportunities are very, self-explanatory, but the scope of opportunity is so huge that I think that it's difficult to comprehend until you start doing it. I never thought when I first started posting content that I would have speaking engagements, and now we're kind of stuck at home. But before that, I was invited quite literally all over. I'm not that advanced in my speaking career like some of the huge names that you'll see on stage, but I was invited to Morocco. I was invited to Amsterdam, San Francisco. So like all these different opportunities came up just because I was posting content, and they just came out of nowhere. So I would say just be open to other opportunities and don't think that what your reality is right now is finite, is limited. Because I think that when you start doing it, it's very easy access to so many other potential opportunities that you may have not even thought of.
Yeah. This question I actually really like, and I think it's very timely for what we're going through. So Natalie asks how to walk the line between being vulnerable when you post on your networks while also staying professional. Example, talking about your unemployment due to COVID, and then the very real struggles with that while also maintaining your brand of being marketable. And I think that, Brené Brown talks about it all the time about being vulnerable, and I think that people are much more accepting of it right now just because of what we're experiencing. But what are your thoughts on that?
So I agree. I think that it is good to be vulnerable on social, to be authentic, to be your true self. I would have no problem hiring somebody that posted about being laid off due to COVID if I felt they were still a strong match for the role, right? It's if the circumstances are out of your control, speak about it. Speak about how you overcame those circumstances. Speak about the ways that you're going about managing all the things that have happened to you, and put it out there, because the more human you are, as long as, listen, if you were fired because of performance reasons, you didn't show up to work, you weren't doing a good job, I wouldn't really speak about that because it doesn't paint you in a good light. But if there's circumstances that are out of your control, and I think that most people here will have a very good feel as to whether or not they were laid off due to things outside of their control or not, it's okay to speak about that because it doesn't really paint you in a bad light at all. Now, if you were fired because, I don't know, you fell asleep on the job, or you fell asleep at work, you didn't show up or whatnot, I wouldn't post about that because it's obviously it's kind of on you. But just understand and make sure that and walking through those struggles is a really good piece of content to put out.
Yes, I agree. And I'm gonna try and go through, the last couple of questions. I know we have about like a minute or so left. So even if we go a little bit over time, I think it's fine. So next question, this is from Devin. What are the most important things to do with LinkedIn, specifically for students? So going back to students who are trying to enter the workforce, whether it's an internship, part-time, or even a full-time position.
So understand whatever job you want to do. Start posting about the actual things that you'll be doing in that job. So if you want to go into finance, you can literally say, This is a new, I'm not a finance guy, so it's probably a bad example. So let's go into marketing. If you want to go into marketing, first of all, you can start posting about different social strategy. You can do, for example, a roundup on what's new in the world of social media. You can speak about best practices to succeed on Twitter. You can comment on topical news stories that are coming out from Facebook, from TikTok, from Snapchat, and you can provide your opinion on that. So you're just commenting on things that are in line with the career that you want to go into. So when people consume your content, they realize that you're actively learning about that field, right? So it's just about keeping all the content that you're putting out in line with what you'd like to do. Like, again, that's your brand. Your brand, you want to be a marketer. So you're going to get a ton of good experience when you work with a company, but you don't have to be working for a company to learn. So put out content that you're learning about. Show that you care about understanding the ever-evolving world of social media. Show that you care about what's new in finance, what new technologies are out there, new practices, new insights from whatever regulatory body offers you what's it called, like if you want to be an accountant, like speak about things that are going on in that world. It doesn't really matter what the world is. Just be commenting, be in the know, and be that that knowledge broker, be that individual that is providing all the insight as to what's going on in that industry. And that will get the right eyes looking at you, because who's consuming that content? If you're in marketing, you're speaking about things that are going on with TikTok, things that are going with different social media platforms. The people that are consuming that content are other marketers, and some of them are in hiring roles, and some of them have opportunities, and they're going to see you posting that content. And then you can obviously, there's other ways to reach out to them, and you can be a little bit strategic about, what you want to talk about. But once you have that audience, once you have people consuming content, commenting, engaging with your content that's focused on the role that you want to go into, well, then whenever you reach out to them, whenever you maybe do a cold outreach to that individual, they've already understood what you're doing. They've already built that level of trust with you because they've been consuming your content for 6 months.
Yes. I'm going to use this as a final question because I think it's important, and then I'll wrap it up with just a few comments on some of the other ones. But this is from Moha again. You had mentioned in your presentation people such as Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Gary Vee. His question is, who are some thought leaders who can inspire us in our process of brand building? So you mentioned those. Are there maybe a couple of others that you'd like to mention, just to give people maybe just a wider lens in terms of maybe 2 or 3 other people that are inspirational in how they've built their brand?
Sure. I would actually. So when you look at Elon, Richard, and Gary, it seems so far away from starting to post on social media day one, right? They're so far and they're so involved in their careers.
Yeah.
I would say that a great example of somebody that's built a brand is quite literally Dave Gerhardt, Shay Robot. Any of the people in this presentation actually would be great examples to look to, because it's achievable. It's people that have been doing it in their spare time for like a year or 2 years, right? So I think that that's a really good person to look to and to emulate, because you can't emulate somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk with an entire social media team. So I would emulate somebody that does this stuff on their own, because that's where we're all starting right now.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the things that I also look at too, especially in the land of influencer, thought leader, kind of going between those two. I think it's one thing to obviously look at someone that has built whatever type of following on Instagram. It's another thing to look at someone that has built a following on LinkedIn. It's very different. And I think the people that have built a following on LinkedIn, that following is authentic. You can't really, bring on any kind of like fake followers there. And I think that that's another way to really just seek out people on LinkedIn, depending upon what type of following that they've been able to create for themselves. means that they're doing something right. So that's just kind of,
Yeah.
my 2 cents there. So I want to just thank everyone that, joined us today on the first Up Level Live session with Scott. Scott, this has been super valuable. Just to go over a few things, Scott's presentation will be on his profile on UpLevel, so our UpLevel site. So you'll be able to access it there. And just remember that, every Wednesday we're going to have a new UpLevel Live speaker session on various different topics based upon that person's, niche, their company, their brand, what that looks like. Scott, again, this was awesome. I so appreciate your time. I'm so thankful that you're a part of our kickoff session with such valuable information. And I don't think it will be the last.
I hope not. I hope everyone got something out of this. I'll have to,
Yeah.
next time I'll have to skim down a little bit because it was incredible doing this, but there's so much that you can do with LinkedIn, with any social.
I agree.
And we only just scratched the surface. So I think the main takeaway is to just start doing something. Start doing something and take advantage of the internet, the connectedness that we have access to. Don't take it for granted because it can really open the door to incredible opportunities.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And again, also the recording of this UpLevel session will also be on our website, so it will all be accessible there. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you again, Scott. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.